Hey everyone, Paul here, and like many of you, I currently hold cryptocurrency and have held it for numerous years now. It's not something I'm necessarily an expert in, like not a maxi trader, but it's fun to play around with, especially if you're technical leaning, because at the end of the day, it's a bunch of different protocols and interesting concepts you get to learn about. Even as a technical person, though, there's some concepts in crypto that they just feel so hard to grasp because there's so many different blockchains, there's so many different protocols, there's layer one, there's layer two. Having worked at the RPC level with some of the folks over at Flipside Crypto to make one of the biggest blockchain data sets, you look at this stuff coming from the node and you just go, that is crazy. And if you can get all this data in one spot, which Flipside did, you can query it as if it were SQL and make very fine-grained analysis. But you have to know what you're looking for. Here we're looking at Etherscan. You can do a lot of analysis here. You can look at transactions and blocks, and if you've ever traded, you've probably landed here at some point to look at your transaction and see the status of it. Knowing in detail what depth of data is available in the Flipside Crypto database really got me excited, and I was like, wow, I want to query all this stuff and make dashboards and charts. And I spent hours in the query console. I spent hours reading the docs. There's Flipside docs on every single chain. Like, these are all the chains: Cosmos, Ethereum, Flow, Gnosis, the list goes on and on. Specifically for Ethereum, we can use that as our test case right now. We can get really detailed. There's things that most crypto databases and chats have, like what transactions came in, what the token balances are, if there's like prices and stuff like that. The real power comes in these other tables that you just wouldn't think about that are from private data modeling that's been done by the team, such as loans, liquidations, repayments, withdrawals. This is just one example. The issue is there's so many of them, it's hard to keep track unless you're an expert in one area or you've worked and contributed to some of these models. And that's why I'm so excited to show you what we've been working on today. Many of you probably heard about MCP, Model Context Protocol. When I first heard about it, I was like, oh my gosh, there's got to be something that can help me like make SQL queries to query this data. And indeed, if you look up blockchain, there are multiple MCP servers that you could plug into your cursor, into your Claude Desktop to connect that interface to a given repository of data. So here we have a blockchain MCP server. It seems like you can get full support to contact the RPC node and sort of pull data and execute some calls and stuff, essentially interact with the chain. Aside from the issue of just hitting many MCP servers that don't work or don't work well, then you have to string them together, going from something that queries like Aptos or Starknet or Ton, and then you have to put it through an analysis MCP and then a graph making MCP and then something that's to make a presentation out of it, et cetera, et cetera. That's why I'm so excited to go through some of the stuff the team's been working on today. Flipsidecrypto.xyz/chat brings you there, and I'm logged in. We can ask a message about anything on any blockchain. So it's going to take this level of granularity from all of the DBT documentation that the team has been curating and hyper curating for years from all the chains. It's going to feed them through a series of experts and a series of MCP servers that are all connected on the back end and present us with a conversation and graphs so we can actually understand something. Obviously still in beta right here, so who knows what's going to happen, but let's just take this for a spin. I'm a huge believer in developer activity spawning success for companies. We see this with Claude Code right now. Engineers are using it, so Claude Code is winning. I wonder if we ask something like, between Optimism, which is a layer 2 on Ethereum, the most telltale signs of developer activity and good stewardship. All right, we're asking, between Optimism and Arbitrum and Polygon, which layer 2 chain has the most telltale signs of developer activity and good signs of building, commerce, and activity? Money talks, but more nuanced observations could yield interesting takeaways about what is being worked on inside each ecosystem. Obviously, you could ask something more basic. Why not give more detail? I like a flowery prompt. Let's send it off and see what happens. This is a fascinating question about the L2 ecosystem health. Let me find the best analytical approach to compare developer activity and ecosystem building across Optimism, Arbitrum, and Polygons. Here it's planning out the different workflows of, call it investigation. Let's take this one. How many unique addresses have submitted a transaction in Arbitrum over the last 30 days? Compare Arbitrum versus Base, which has more users. Show me the daily active user comparison between Arbitrum and Base. Is Arbitrum or Base seeing more user activity over the past 30 days? I like the unique addresses one. That one's a pretty good one to call out. How has Base's daily active addresses trend compared to Arbitrum and Optimism over the last 90 days? So this is essentially a series of workflows that are going to be spawned, and it's going to come back with these results. Okay, Perfect. We customize it for your specific question. It's grabbing some schemas from some tables. This is where I always would get stuck. So I'd be in the flip side query window, and there would just be these super deep, high value schemas, and I just like wouldn't be aware of them. Even having worked adjacently to them, wouldn't be aware of them. The data team is always outputting these amazing things. Now I have something that can tell me which ones I should look at. Taking a look closely, we're investigating the cross-chain schema, and we're looking at the easy activity metrics daily. I didn't even know this existed. That's awesome. Now let me get data on DEX activity, decentralized exchange activity, and protocol metrics to capture the commerce and developer ecosystem signals. Nice. Let's go look at what we got. Cross-chain, easy DEX metrics daily. Seems like the cross-chain table is popping off for us here. Easy TVL chain metrics daily. And here it's finally querying some flip side data for us. So if we open this, what is it going to show us? Here we get the actual query it rendered. Very nice. This might be useful for safekeeping later. I can save and download it. And here's a preview of the data. Table inline for me. So I can validate if this is what I want as we're going. Excellent. This gives us a solid foundation. Well, what was the foundation? Recent 30-day averages for current state, DEX activity, TVL metrics, growth momentum, fee efficiency. So lower fee efficiency can indicate better. You could extrapolate lower fees over a given interface or pool suggests that it is an efficient or well-made one. Now let me dive deeper into protocol level activity to understand the developer ecosystem better. Okay, we're getting at easy DEX protocols metrics daily this time. Querying some flip side data. Looks like there was a failure, complex query. It fixed it. There we go. We got another table. What is it getting for us this time? Are there nice comments? Ooh, diversity score. Okay. Lower concentration equals higher diversity of what? Of market share. That's interesting. So it's getting protocol concentration and top protocol market share and comparing them for us here. Fascinating. Now let me get the top protocols on each chain to understand what's driving the activity. This is probably a more basic query that would be easier to assemble off the cuff. We're just looking at protocol rankings. We're looking at gross volume, distinct swappers, stuff like that. Nice little table rendered for us. Okay, let's look through these findings. Initial findings. Layer 2 developer activity and ecosystem health. The data is painting a fascinating picture of 3 very different L2 ecosystems. 636,000 daily users, the highest on Polygon with 59% quality user ratio. Most protocol diversity with balanced competition, 10 active protocols, 7 high volume ones. So this is interesting. I always wonder like how many active smart contracts are there? So they have 10, 7 high volume. Lowest fees for a transaction. I do know that about Polygon. That's why a lot of NFT projects and other apps, dApps have spawned on Polygon because it's just so cheap. Arbitrum, institutional powerhouse. Okay, we got higher fees for a transaction. That's one of the first things I noticed. 1.1 cents, but users willing to pay. I wonder if like the fact that it's institutional, it's mentioning here, and they're willing to pay, that's a good sign of strength. So it has around half-ish daily users, with explosive 65% growth, strongest momentum. Ooh, okay, you know AI is about to lay it down right here, is giving it the the cold feet title, the cold feet intro. 100,000 daily active users, so about a sixth, yes, smallest but stable. That's good. Okay, I guess it's found a floor. Lowest volatility, that goes in line with this one. Most concentrated, 76% Uniswap. So it's basically telling us that this is a Uniswap protocol. It is what it is. It's humming along. I find it interesting that it's able to pull these precise numbers and they're not hallucinated numbers. If we look at these in the data, we will be able to see where every piece is getting sourced from the SQL queries. All right, can you help us visualize it? While that's humming along, I'll bring up, you can mention protocols like Optimism, Arbitrum, name drop other ones. You could say a random smart contract. And there's recognition of, hey, I know what this is. I don't know what this is. I got to go search for the back end. But at the end of the day, the magic happens because everything gets related to some identity, to some relationship that is derived from deep in these DBT docs across the 30 plus chains that we have and issued as actual queries that return actual data that can be presented in tables and as we're about to see, hopefully visualized in something that is very helpful for us. That really is the power of just consuming and processing your own data at that bare metal level. I've always loved plugging into APIs, but the moment you own the data and you can just hammer it as much as you want and get innovative with it, it just opens up so many doors for what you can do beyond the typical offering, like reading a CoinGecko API. This is root decoded and modeled chain activity that we're looking at right here. We got this beautiful pop-up on the side. Okay, what do we have? Layer 2 ecosystem analysis. I'm gonna zoom in a couple punches for us here. Okay, we got nice little cards at the front for us describing everything. This is very analogous to the Claude artifacts. Everything's interactive. We could even look at this chart and ask it to go into some stuff in more detail. It puts it in perspective when I can see it in the pie chart how much DEX volume is on Arbitrum. That must be because some of that institutional buy-in that it was talking about earlier. And here we have each one of their takeaways that we're getting from the past 60 and 90-day analysis that has been done. Presentational grade, SQL-driven, data-backed reports available in minutes for virtually anything you could ask about any blockchain. And just like with Claude artifacts, you can publish this. So we can click the publish thing right here, and then we can get a shareable link. Now, one cool thing I do like about this interface, unlike Claude, is I can open up an incognito window, paste this in, and I can actually send this to somebody that doesn't have an account or they're not on my team, and they can immediately see what I'm talking about and the value that I want to deliver visually. For all intents and purposes, this is a website that I now made that I can share with my audience, my stakeholders, or on a video that I'm making. Wink, wink. And of course, we have the download as HTML and copy it to the clipboard. I do want to see something in a little bit more detail, though. This DEX volume distribution. Arbitrum has so much. Let's try iterating on this report, iterating on these queries, and diving a bit deeper. Arbitrum has one of the biggest shares of the entire DEX volume distribution. This is super interesting, and we would like to dig in more. Is there some sort of additional queries or stuff you can add to our interactive artifact to allow us to explore that DEX volume distribution within the Arbitrum allotment more closely? Gosh, when you're doing voice to text, sometimes I fumble up and say the weirdest words, but it gets the point, you know? All right, seems like we had 2 queries against the flip side data. We're getting DEX stuff and swaps. I like that these tabs are expandable so we can check them out. Oh yeah, there's GMX that we saw. And all these tables, I think, yeah, we can download it. Oh, CSV, very nice. So we can download the SQL query and the CSV result. Interesting. Now it seems like it's getting a time series for some protocols in particular that I must have found interesting that we need to pay attention to. It's going to see if it's growing or declining, or if it's stable. All right, let's open up the new one. Oh, we got a much more detailed chart here. I can click things, and they appear and they don't appear. This is specifically for the Arbitrum DEX volume distribution. Looks like we're getting a full breakdown. Volume per user efficiency. That is, I don't really understand what this means. Let me know. Somebody smarter than me who understands what that means. Native protocol innovation spotlight. Arbitrum native protocols driving unique value propositions and developer innovation. Okay. I've heard of Ramses. I don't know if I've used it before. GMX I've used. Camelot native DEX. What is that? Camelot DEX. It's a DEX. Wow, this one's really nice. Complete Arbitrum protocol analysis. I like the way this graph turned out. I do also like that it gave us a little warning here on the high for the Uniswap dominance. Oh, I didn't see this button earlier, so we can also click on the code directly. All right, I'm gonna publish this one too, and we can throw them in the video description if anybody wants to spelunk around or want to break it. That's good too. We like breaking things, kind of. But in any case, I think I can go over here to the artifacts tab, and I have them saved. I can set the visibility and do all other sorts of stuff like re-enter the chat that I was in here for the layer 2 ecosystem analysis specifically for that artifact. And everybody watching knows how a chatbot works, so there's no purpose in doing more here on the video because this is open, so you can go spelunk around in it yourself right now and check it out. Literally ask anything. I'm curious to see what crazy questions people might throw at it. I, for one, have always been interested in lending contracts on Solana. Never really got into them, never have practiced with them. So this could be a good foray into it. Give me some charts and stuff to get started, because it has data that it's querying from as recent as 15 minutes ago up to that 90-day or plus period if it needs. And for those of you who don't want to use in the web interface and you have all your integrations in Claude Desktop, maybe you want to export artifacts and stuff, we're also working on something where you can use it with Claude. So you can click on this button and you want to copy your server URL right here. It's the only thing you're going to need. So open up Claude Desktop, and in the lower left, you're going to go to Settings, and then you want to add this as a connector. If you have a different version of Claude Desktop, it might appear as an integration, but right now it is a connector, and you want to add a custom connector. You can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to name it Flipside because that's what it is, and you're going to paste that URL in there and add it. So I'm going to click Add here, and then we click Connect. And the moment you click Connect, a web browser is going to open. It's going to put you through a little auth flow. I'm already logged in online in Arc, so it authenticated me. And so now if we go into our tools, we see that Flipside is connected and we have 18 tools. So this is just a glimpse of some of what's behind the curtain and what's going on that's accessible here directly in Claude. Let's hit it with a query. Use the Flipside MCP server suite to help me understand where the institutional money is flowing right now out of the blockchain network and into the blockchain network with a nice little interactive artifact to explore, get detailed into smart contracts and other nuances that might not be immediately apparent from the RPC nodes. Just really curious what that yields for us. If you used MCP before, if you already know this, but you do have to click allow when you have new tools entering your Claude Desktop conversation. So we're just going to click allow as those get used for the first time. Notice as these tools get called, it's in a similar cadence and with an identical congruent level of data fidelity and quality as we got in the interface, and it's accessible directly here in Claude Desktop, where of course you have all these other integrations if you want to set them up with your Drive, your Gmail, whatever else it might be. Taking a quick tour here, we're finding a bunch of tables, 15 different tables to explore with descriptions, getting some schemas like from the cross-chain Sex Easy Flows Daily, from the DeFi Llama Fact Bridge volume. We're actually finding tables specifics here by their name that we found prior, running queries and getting the same tabular results at the bottom in context directly in Claude Desktop. Oh, we got a Ethereum DeFi Easy Lending Deposits. Interesting, so it's looking into lending for us. The SQL query is getting at large institutional DeFi lending deposits. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Make the window a little bit bigger here to prepare us for the artifact. When it lands, we get our artifact. We're getting cash outflow, withdrawal size, bridging volume. Don't need to belabor the point and read into the details in the analysis, but we got similar tables of identical value and identical data, and we got a button. Hey, show SQL queries. That's cool that Claude figured out that we might want to have the queries directly accessible here in the interactive artifact. And for anybody still getting used to Claude Desktop, keep in mind these connectors, you can attach whatever you want. So if you produce reports and you're iterating on reports here, you're bringing in your own data, go down here, go to add connectors. There's a bunch of different things that you can throw in. It's amazing. Connect your Notion, connect your Linear, or you can install desktop extensions that run on your computer, like Control Your Mac, and you can actually have it read and write notes or send messages if you want. Workflows on being a Claude Power user, definitely a video for another time, because I just want to take the last minute or two to remind y'all that this is open, it's in beta, so you can go to flipsidecrypto.xyz/chat and sign up. Grab that MCP URL and configure it in Claude Desktop if that's the interface you want to use, if you want to connect it to all your resources and other MCP servers, or you can head directly to the web app. You can interact with your different artifacts, chat with a fully featured hostable, presentable artifacts that others can interact with. Because we're looking forward to everybody feeling that excitement when you have a new tool, a new V8 engine that can dive into tables and relations, schemas, and data to find correlations that feel like secretive, things you would have never have thought of, things that people would have never have thought of. Because there's only so much mindshare you can give to every domain, to every data point, to every nook and cranny that you might want to look through. So now it's accessible. There is a full breadth of access across all the schemas and all the tables. So have at it, dig in, and let us know what you find. Catch you guys on the flip side.